The Radical Power of Softness, Redefining Strength in Black Leadership. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to begin by sharing something that fundamentally changed my perspective on leadership, success, and what it truly means to be powerful. Recently, I had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Ife Turner, a visionary whose work has transformed how we think about strength, vulnerability, and authenticity in professional spaces. Ife is nothing short of revolutionary, a beacon of light who has courageously challenged centuries of conditioning around what power looks like, especially for Black women. Through her groundbreaking research and deeply personal approach, she has created safe harbors for thousands who previously believed they had to sacrifice their humanity at the altar of achievement. Her work isn't just changing individual lives, it's reshaping entire organizational cultures and dismantling systems that have long demanded superhuman performance while denying basic humanity. What I'm about to share with you today challenges one of our most deeply held cultural beliefs, a belief so ingrained that questioning it feels almost heretical. Here it is. What if everything we've been taught about strength is wrong? We live in a world that celebrates grit, hustle, and pushing through pain. We admire those who never stop, never rest, never show weakness. This narrative is particularly intense for Black professionals who often operate in spaces where they're told explicitly or implicitly that they must be twice as good to get half as far. But what if this conception of strength, this relentless, unyielding, never vulnerable approach, is actually making us weaker? What if, counterintuitively, embracing softness is the true path to power? This isn't just philosophical musing. The evidence is mounting that our conventional wisdom about strength is fundamentally flawed, especially for Black leaders navigating systems that weren't designed with them in mind. Consider Atasha, a Black woman professional whose story illuminates this truth with striking clarity. For years, Atasha embodied what many would consider the ideal professional: tireless, always available, meeting everyone else's needs while suppressing her own exhaustion. She was the rock everyone leaned on, the pillar that never crumbled, the one who carried the weight of expectations without complaint. And beneath that flawless exterior, she was dying inside, not just tired, depleted at a soul level. I thought strength meant never letting them see me sweat, she confessed during a powerful interview. I believed vulnerability would be weaponized against me. So I built walls so high and so thick that eventually I couldn't find myself behind them anymore. The turning point came when Atasha collapsed, not metaphorically, but physically, in the middle of a presentation. Her body had finally delivered the message her mind refused to acknowledge. This version of strength was killing her. In that moment of forced surrender, Atasha discovered something profound. Her definition of leadership was fundamentally broken. True leadership wasn't about being invulnerable, it was about modeling authentic humanity for those who looked up to her. So she did something that felt terrifying. She began prioritizing her well being unapologetically. She started speaking openly about her challenges. She sought community support through mentorships and partnerships. She embraced vulnerability publicly, not as a weakness, but as a deliberate strength. The first time I admitted in a team meeting that I was struggling, I was terrified. She shared, I thought I'd lose all credibility. Instead, something miraculous happened. People didn't respect me less, they trusted me more. The walls came down not just for me, but for everyone. The results were transformative. Rather than diminishing her influence, Etitia's openness led to deeper relationships at work and more sustainable productivity. She became a vocal advocate for mental health within her organization and started an employee resource group focused on wellness for women of color. Her actions helped normalize vulnerability as part of workplace culture, leading to increased retention among Black women professionals. This pattern repeats across industries and contexts. Take Akia In, an entrepreneur whose journey mirrors that of so many Black women in business. Kia had internalized the superwoman archetype, believing that perfectionism in every aspect of business ownership was the only path to success. The result? Crushing burnout and creative stagnation. I was so busy proving I belonged in the room that I forgot why I wanted to be there in the first place. Akia reflected. I was creating a business I was too exhausted to enjoy. Her breakthrough came when she intentionally let go of unrealistic expectations and embraced transparency about her struggles with peers. Instead of seeing vulnerability as a liability in business, she treated it as an asset, building alliances rooted in honesty rather than competition. The outcome defied conventional wisdom. Her business saw improved collaboration internally. She attracted partners who valued shared growth over individual heroics. She experienced renewed energy for creative pursuits. Most significantly, she helped redefine what strong leadership looks like within regional startup circles, making space for softness alongside ambition. The most revolutionary thing I did wasn't launching my company, Akia said. It was showing up as my full self while doing it. Now, I can anticipate the skepticism some of you might be feeling. In a world that often equates vulnerability with weakness, especially for Black professionals, this approach might seem risky, even naive. Won't showing vulnerability make you a target? Won't admitting limitations hold you back? These are valid concerns, but they rest on a fundamental misunderstanding of what vulnerability actually is. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage in its purest form. It's not the absence of boundaries, it's the presence of self awareness and authenticity. Mavsin's work with hundreds of Black entrepreneurs illustrates this distinction beautifully. Mauve uses methodology centered around authenticity instead of armor, a radical departure from mainstream advice on resilience. Her clients typically approached her after experiencing stagnation or disconnection due to suppressing their true selves at work or in client relations. Mauve's counterintuitive approach, she encouraged them to treat softness as a strategic asset rather than a risk. This meant asking questions others avoid, admitting uncertainty, and showing up as fully human in professional contexts. The breakthrough moment for my clients, Mauve explains, comes when they realize that what they've been hiding is actually their greatest strength. The very things they've been taught to minimize, their emotional intelligence, their cultural wisdom, their unique perspectives, are precisely what make them invaluable. The results speak for themselves. Entrepreneurs reported higher satisfaction rates among teams and customers, thanks largely to more open communication channels. They experienced less turnover due primarily to improved workplace culture. Mauve's frameworks have now been adopted across multiple businesses led by people of color founders, contributing significantly towards shifting perceptions about power dynamics across entire sectors. What these stories reveal is a profound truth that contradicts everything we've been taught about professional success. Vulnerability is not a liability, it's an asset. When Black professionals and entrepreneurs allow themselves to be vulnerable, they unlock genuine connections and foster environments where creativity and collaboration can thrive. But there's another critical insight here, one that's particularly important for Black leaders. Many of the challenges they face stem from structural inequities, not individual shortcomings. Recognizing this truth allows us to address these barriers collectively rather than internalizing them as personal flaws. For too long, the narrative around Black achievement has focused exclusively on individual effort. Work twice as hard, never show weakness, prove your worth constantly. This narrative placed the entire burden of overcoming systemic barriers on individual shoulders. It's exhausting, it's unfair, and perhaps most importantly, it doesn't work. What does work is building supportive networks and prioritizing healing over relentless endurance. True empowerment comes from leaning into softness, resting when needed, seeking help without shame, and nurturing oneself alongside others. This isn't just feel good advice, it's a strategic approach to sustainable success. When we examine the most effective leaders across contexts, we find that they aren't the ones who never rest or never show vulnerability. They're the ones who understand their own limitations, who build strong communities around them, who know when to push and when to pause. Now, I want to be clear about something. Embracing softness doesn't mean abandoning ambition or accepting injustice. It doesn't mean stepping back from the fight for equity. On the contrary, it means engaging in that fight from a place of wholeness rather than depletion. It means recognizing that your well being is not separate from your effectiveness, it's essential to it. Think about it this way: we've all been on an airplane and heard the safety instructions to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. You cannot effectively help others if you're struggling to breathe yourself. The same principle applies to leadership, especially for Black professionals navigating systems that weren't designed with them in mind. Prioritizing your well being isn't selfish, it's essential to your ability to create meaningful change. So I challenge you today, right now, to start a revolution in your own life. Begin by asking yourself, where am I performing strength rather than embodying it? Where have I sacrificed my humanity on the altar of achievement? What would it look like to lead from a place of authenticity rather than armor? Then take one radical step towards softness. Maybe it's setting a boundary you've been afraid to establish. Perhaps it's asking for help when you've always been the helper. It could be simply acknowledging your own exhaustion and giving yourself permission to rest. Remember that in a world that profits from your burnout, choosing rest is not just self care, it's a revolutionary act. In spaces that demand superhuman performance while denying your humanity, showing up as authentically human is not weakness, it's the ultimate form of power. The revolution begins with you, not the perfect version of you that you've been trying to be, not the invulnerable version of you that you've been pretending to be, but the real you, complete with strengths and struggles, brilliance and breakdowns, power and vulnerability. This is your invitation to step into the radical power of softness. The world doesn't need more people burning themselves out on the altar of achievement. It needs leaders who have the courage to be human, the wisdom to be vulnerable, and the strength to be soft. The time for transformation is now. And it begins with a simple revolutionary choice to embrace the power of your own humanity. Not tomorrow, not when you've achieved enough or proven enough, but today, right? In this moment, will you accept the invitation